Hey there, Scorpios. I'm Isaac, and welcome to my channel. We're going to get into your reading for the month of September. So, we're just going to talk a little bit about what might be coming up and kind of general themes there. So, Scorpio, I feel like you guys are working on changing the way you communicate, particularly trying to stop avoiding conflict. In the past, perhaps you have resorted to certain methods to try to spare people's feelings or avoid conflict. Maybe, Scorpio, don't hate me for this, Scorpios, but you guys can sometimes have a reputation for being a bit deceptive. You guys are very secretive, and in some cases, I don't feel like it's a malicious thing, though. I feel like it's more of a self-protective thing. It's like you're trying to avoid conflict and you're trying to avoid hurting people's feelings. But when you do that, as you may have found already in your life, the more you try to avoid the conflict, the bigger it gets over time until eventually it explodes. So if you you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, so you kind of maybe lie to them a little bit, but eventually they find out that you're lying, and then you end up hurting their feelings twice as bad because now you lied to them about it. So that sort of thing. I think that you've experienced this enough in the past, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, I have to just learn to be okay with the fact that sometimes people's feelings might get hurt if I tell them the truth, and that's just the way it's going to have to be. And that's a good thing overall because I mean, look, with Pallas here in Scorpio, and the fact that you're a Scorpio sun sign, like you understand how people work. Like you get people's feelings. Like you're really good at understanding a person's sort of inner workings to a certain degree, which can, in some cases, allow you to use that power to manipulate a person, whether it's on purpose or not on purpose. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be malicious. It can sometimes be self-protective. So it's like you're good at it, and maybe it's even easy for you. But just because it's easy for you to do it doesn't mean that it's going to lead you to anything positive. It usually just it prolongs the inevitable and makes it so that when whatever conflict or issue you're trying to avoid comes up, it comes up 10 times bigger than it ever had to. And this month there could be a bit of a temptation here. Actually, let's back up before we get into that. Um, So I think one of the more common things that causes this issue with like the self-protective deception, that sort of thing, I think the main area where that comes up is probably in your romantic relationships. Because you have an intense desire for commitment and also a bit of a fear of it because things become very stable and predictable and you might kind of get bored within your relationships. So it's like you really want that commitment, but when you get the commitment, it ends up kind of you still don't feel that satisfied because then you start to get bored. And people are naturally attracted to you. And when you're feeling bored in a relationship, I mean, if you have a lot of people who are attracted to you, it's very easy to let to kind of get too close to people, kind of form relationships and bonds and interactions with people that your partner might not be comfortable with. Maybe you get too close to them, you get flirtatious, or you're bored within the relationship, so you're talking to so you might end up talking to other people, but you don't want them to know because it's not really anything wrong that they're doing. It's really just a feeling that you have, and if you tell them, it's going to blow things up, and everybody's going to get upset. But eventually they end up finding out anyways, and then things blow up. And that might be, for some Scorpios, that could be a pattern that you've experienced before. And there may be a temptation from the universe to repeat this cycle again. So if you're finding that you are in a relationship and that it's kind of gets boring, or that you just kind of feel like you're still unsatisfied, even though you maybe got that commitment that you were after, you have that person who's finally dedicated to you. And of course, this is a general reading. It's not going to apply to everybody. Um, it could be that somebody pops up in your life, and within your social circle or maybe at work, to tempt you into forming some kind of bond with this person that's ultimately going to upset someone else. And with the way that this is situated with Venus and Lilith here, it will come to light. Like people will see it. So it's one of those things where if you do go for it, if you do go for this kind of connection or interaction with this other person, maybe it's just flirting, or maybe you're just hanging out. Maybe it's like the work husband or something like that. Um, but if you go for that, it's going to come to light. Like people are going to find out about it, and that issue we were just talking about will come full circle. It'll come to the surface, and you'll be kind of faced with this sort of harsh lesson about conflict avoidance and um, trying to keep secrets to save someone's feelings. Um, so it could be that one of the roots of this kind of general this underlying dissatisfaction that causes that sense of boredom and the desire to maybe uh, do things that other people might not like, just out of a sense of just wanting to find some sort of either distraction or fulfillment or something like that. It could be rooted actually in a sort of a lack of a sense of purpose with this Chiron in the sixth house. Perhaps this is something you've been dealing with for a while now, where it's like you're not really sure what you're supposed to be doing. Like you don't know what it is in your life that's going to finally kind of bring you that satisfaction and sense of wholeness that really everyone's looking for. And subconsciously, perhaps at some point you were taught that that feeling comes from relationships. And that's what creates this drive towards wanting this intense, deep, committed relationship with somebody, because you're subconsciously believing that that's what's going to fulfill you. But then you get it and then realize you're still not fulfilled. But then your subconscious is still like, well, maybe it's because I just need a different person. Maybe this person, maybe the problem is that I'm just not with the right person. So I'll go try interacting with other people to find out. Maybe being with this other person will make me happy. And then maybe you start forming a connection with somebody, and then things start to get contentious between you and your current relationship, and then things blow up because the person feels upset that you're talking to someone else, and then you start dating that new person, but then you find out that you're still not satisfied, and it kind of can if you it can turn into this endless cycle of constantly getting new partners and breaking up, getting a new partner and breaking up over and over again. um, and all the while it's actually that the feeling that you're trying to fix is actually coming from that sense of not really knowing what your thing is in life, or what you feel passionate about, or what you can do on a daily basis that kind of can bring you that sense of satisfaction that you're really looking for. And so with the North Node here in the fifth house right here, that's kind of the North Node kind of describes like the direction that the universe is kind of pushing you in. And this is kind of telling you to find things that you enjoy, to do things that are fun, just for their own sake, and maybe by yourself, even with being in Aries here. Um, Finding ways to just to do things for their own sake, just for fun. And probably there's a chance that there's something you used to do a long time ago that brought you that sort of sense of satisfaction, brought you into the present moment, that perhaps you stopped doing because you've kind of wrote it off as being not that important or not practical. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's not going to bring you more money, or it's not going to get you the things you want. So maybe you push that aside, and because you tell yourself that whatever your thing is, that you really feel that you really just get you into the flow state, into that present moment, the sort of channeled state where you lose track of time and you're just enjoying what you're doing. Um, Rediscovering that's going to be really really helpful for you. I don't know, and I mean that can manifest in 100,000 different ways. It's going to be different for every person. I can't really tell you in a general reading like this what that's going to be for you specifically, but if you are resonating with this reading and you have found that you do run into this sort of cycle of relationships, um, like I described earlier, it might be worth trying to explore some form of creativity or just something to do for fun, some kind of play of really that you can do by yourself. It doesn't have to be by yourself, but it needs to be something that like really you don't have to rely on anyone else to do their part so that you can do what you need to do or what you want to do. Kind of there's just a certain sense of independence that's missing here, that will ultimately serve to strengthen your relationships and kind of get rid of this underlying or feeling that the grass is always greener on the other side when it comes to finding partners specifically. Um, Let's see here. I'm going to pause the video and look at this for just a second. Okay, so yeah, it does look like with this reading, money and work and that kind of stuff are going to be kind of secondary. I think this month, uh, the main theme of the month, I think, is going to be what we've already talked about, and the really just trying to find ways to have fun by yourself. Um, that's going to really boost your sense of confidence. It might not seem like it makes sense at first, whatever you're doing. And like it doesn't necessarily seem on the surface like just doing things for their own sake, for fun, just by yourself, just because it's what you want to do. It wouldn't necessarily make sense that that would boost your confidence, but it really will, because it'll make you feel more just independent, and just like you rely on your inner resources. And when you do that, when you get that feeling, all the external stuff starts to sort of stop being so important. You start to ease up on the things that you think you want in order to make you happy, because you start to actually feel actually happy, based because you're going more inward. You're becoming more yourself, more, yeah, becoming more of yourself, really, just becoming more independent in a sense, emotionally independent. I guess I should say. um, you're a naturally people naturally like you. I think you, with your 10th house in Leo, and I mean just Scorpios in general tend to be usually pretty attractive people, both physically and just like magnetically. People just, they like you. They are naturally attracted to you, and so it can be really difficult to resist the temptation sometimes when some interesting, attractive new person starts showing interest in you, and you're feeling maybe a little bit bored or dissatisfied with your partner or some aspect of your life. It can be very easy to give into that temptation. But like I said, if you do go for that, it's going to come out. It's going to be, people are going to find out, and it's going to cause more problems than anything else. Um, and then also with Saturn being in retrograde in your fifth house in Pisces here, that kind of describes a process that is, it's hard to describe. Okay, so Pisces uh, is, if you imagine, it's like a boundless ocean. I've been using this metaphor a lot. Pisces, if you want to understand that energy, it's basically, imagine you're floating in the middle of an ocean, and on all sides of you is just nothing but water. There's no shore, there's no trees, there's nothing to grab onto. It's just boundlessness, just a boundless ocean. And Saturn, being the planet that likes to draw boundaries around things, uh, is when Saturn is in Pisces, it kind of is able to draw circles around things, and create concepts out of what seems like nothing, or out of some apps. It takes the abstract and makes it understandable, yeah, and turns it into something you can work with. And in the fifth house, so that's kind of what you're doing, is like in your life, in the fifth house in your life, where you, or in the part of your life where you're trying to have fun and be creative and just be spontaneous and be in the moment and just enjoy things. There's like it's like you just may not really know exactly what to do. It's a boundless ocean. You don't really see what to do. And the process of figuring that out can be kind of, like I said, it's abstract. You kind of just have to try things and see how you feel. Um, the best way probably to start with that is to think of what you used to do when you were young. What was your hobby, and what was the thing you liked to do by yourself just for fun when you were young? Everybody's got something, but a lot of us get taught that that thing isn't worth doing because it's not, because you got to pay rent, you got to make money, you got to get married, you got to, society tells us all these things we got to do. It gets hammered into you that you have to be, everything you do has to be for a purpose of getting something in return, and we kind of ignore the things that are their own reward. The act of doing certain things is its own reward. It's not about what you get out of it. It's the act of being engaged in it, and that's really what this chart is kind of suggesting you look for this month. So I'm going to go ahead and just end it here. I don't want to make these videos too long. I'm just kind of starting out on YouTube again. So thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe. If you want to get into private readings, I do offer natal chart readings and tarot card readings. Just send me an email. It'll be down in the description below. and we can work something out. Until then, take care.